Hello chess friends, welcome back to a YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to have a look at a very important concept. It is called as deflection. Now, deflection is one of the most basic chess tactic that every chess player should know. So if you are new to this tactic, this one is going to be a great one. It is very often used in chess, so this is very useful tactic to learn. So let's start from the obvious question. What is deflection in chess? Well, deflection is a tactic in chess that forces an opponent's piece, to leave a particular square, rank, or file, basically which is occupies. And after that piece leaves the square, something is left vulnerable, and basically that's all about it. So it's basically deflecting or moving away one of your opponent's pieces away from a very important square. Okay, so that's the definition of it. But now let's look at some example which will definitely clarify your doubts. So here's the first example: white to play and win the game. So like always, you can go ahead, pause the video, and try to find the move that white should play here. First of all, you start with asking the right question: which pieces do you need to deflect? Which are the pieces, white as well as black pieces, you need to deflect? All right. If you ask yourself the right questions, you'll realize that the bishop over here is kind of a defensive piece. If this piece wasn't there, then our bishop could have reached the f7 square. In fact, that is one of the key ideas, and we're going to have a look at it. We start with the move queen to g4. This is a very important move. This is a queen sacrifice. And why do we sacrifice the queen? The entire idea is to deflect the bishop on e6 away. So this diagonal over here opens up. So it's the e8 to h5 diagonal we have to open up. So we deflect the defender on e6. We force him to capture. This is basically deflection. Now all we need to do is bring our bishop on f7 square. How do we do it? First, we have to get rid of our rook on g6 again. So rook into h6, it's a check. The bishop guards it, so the king can't really capture. He has to capture with the pawn. And here comes the point. Now that you have moved the bishop away, you can play the very interesting move bishop to f7 check, and that is made. Basically, the entire theme was to simply move the defender on e6 away from its defending square, after which checkmate is inevitable. You can see there is a Boden's mate over here. Beautiful checkmate. All right, so basically it's all about deflecting the defending piece. Now let's get going with a second example. So there you have it. This is the second example. In fact, this is a very famous game, and I know that most of my subscribers are super intelligent and they are very educated, and they have already guessed the game. It is a game of William Steinitz, and Steinitz in this game was black, and there is a beautiful deflection move. Basically, it's all about deflecting the defender away from the square which he's importantly guarding. So black to play. What would you play here as black? Again, just pause the video and try to find the beautiful move that black went on to play over here. Okay, so here comes the beautiful move queen to h4. This is a move of extreme beauty. You are giving the queen for free but cannot be captured, of course. The idea is obviously pretty simple. Queen into h2 is a checkmate, so this has to be dealt with. Now what happens if white captures the queen? The idea is rook to g1 would be an Arabian mate. That's a pretty beautiful checkmate. Again, queen h4. He can try something else like captures, but again this threat is pretty simple. This is one checkmate. Queen into h2 is another checkmate, so the king can't really escape over there. So going back, in this position, Steiner's opponent played rook to g2, but Steinitz finished the game in a very in a beautiful style. He played queen takes h2, again deflecting the rook away from the guarding square. Basically, the rook was defending the g1 square. We deflect it forcibly. We force him to move away, and once he moves away, the line has been cleared up for our rook to go to the g1 square, and rook to g1 would be a beautiful Arabian checkmate. So that was second example. Very famous. I think most of you already know it because you are all very all of my subscribers are super intelligent and very educated, I would say, in terms of chess. All right, now let's get going with a third example. Okay, so here is a third example, and I remember I saw this example for the first time when I was a kid, and I was really amazed at the combination that exists over here. It's really beautiful. So white was none other than Chigorin. Chigorin was a very strong player, and you can see Chigorin has got some really excellent white pieces. Knight on d5, very powerful. Queen on c5, bishop on b4, all are prepared to attack. But how do we exactly attack his position? Like always, pause the video, try to find the smashing move that white played over here. Here comes the first beautiful move, knight to e7. Now that is a fork. That's a beautiful fork. And if he doesn't do anything, we're gonna, let's say he just moves his king, then we can capture the queen, and we are more than happy over there, of course. So he has to do something, he has to capture it. Now, why did we sacrifice a knight? The idea was very simple. You had to deflect the rook. You know, the rook was defending the back rank. You can see the rook was defending the back rank. He was stopping our rook from going over here. So it was important that we deflect it and move it away from its defending square. Now that we have deflected the rook, the idea is pretty simple. Rook to d1, rook to d8. It's still a question mark. What happens if black just goes back? And here is where the real beautiful move of the game is revealed. Chigorin here went on to play queen to f8, a beautiful queen sacrifice. The game is over. The king can't really capture, of course, thanks to the bishop keeping an eye on the queen from far away. He has to capture with the rook, and that is a beautiful back rank checkmate. So what a beautiful example of deflection. First we deflect the rook on the 8th rank, of course. By the way, I forgot to mention, he can also capture with this rook. In that case, you can simply try to sack the queen. It's basically a tactic which you can use. Now basically the idea is, if he takes, he can't really capture, of course. If he takes, then this results into a back rank mate. Otherwise, what happens if he doesn't take? Where can he move his rook? Let's say any bad square. The problem is we still go over here, and back rank checkmate pursues. Basically, no matter what he does, we're gonna go for the back rank mate. Even I think in this position he can also try f6. Looks like a terrible move, but I think simply this is winning over here. Pin and win. So it is the star move of the game, knight to e7, deflecting the rook and going for this beautiful checkmating pattern. So the entire idea was deflect the defender away from its defending square, and then you can work out your magic. All right, now time for our next example. Hope you have really enjoyed this once. The next example is really spectacular. So here is our next example. As promised, it's a special one. It is a game by Alexander Alyakin. In fact, there is a little story behind it. I remember I saw this first position. I didn't really do it from a book. I was shown this position by international master Abhishek Kedkar, and he showed me this, and it took me some time to find the move, of course. And I asked him whose game it was, and he instantly told me that it was Alyakin's game. So the move is not pretty difficult to find. It is a typical Alyakin sacrifice. So white to play and find the beautiful deflection move that white should play here. All right, what exactly? There are a few questions you can ask always to make things easier for you. What exactly do we have to deflect, and how do we deflect it? That's the second question. So first question, what exactly do you have to deflect? I would say you would have to deflect the black queen. If the black queen is taken away, then you can simply take the knight, and after king takes, queen to d8 would be a back rank checkmate. So basically, all you have to do is deflect the queen on f6. That is the piece you have to deflect. How do you deflect is the natural follow-up question. So just take a minute, try to find the move that white should play in order to deflect that queen. All right, here comes the idea. Knight to h6. It's a beautiful deflection move. It's a check, of course. The pawn on g7 is pinned, can't really capture. If the king goes to h8, can you guess? Just rook into f8 is mate. So going back, in this position, he is forced to basically capture with the queen, and there comes the point. The queen has been successfully deflected. Now you can use our typical idea which we wanted to. So rook takes f8, king takes f8, and queen to d8. There comes the back rank checkmate. So basically it was all about deflecting the one piece. So there is a simple technique you can use which all grandmasters use. You don't have to really go for a brain crusher. You don't have to try very hard. Just ask yourself the right questions. Which is the piece I need to deflect, and how do I deflect it? If you ask these simple questions, the move will automatically appear in front of you. So that's the technique I've told you now. So going for the next example, I'm going to show you two more examples of this beautiful theme, so it's crystal clear for you guys. All right. Okay, so here comes our next example, a really beautiful one. Black is horribly placed over here. All of his pieces, most of his pieces are sleeping over here except the queen. And that is the thing you're going to use. You have two really beautiful bishops, one on h5, the other on b2. And you already know bishops are the king of diagonals. And that is exactly what you have to use here. So like always, pause the video and ask yourself the right questions. The first question is, which is the piece you need to deflect and how do you deflect it is the second follow-up question. So pause it and find the move for white. Here you go. The first question is, which is the piece you need to deflect? The answer is the pawn on d7. That's the piece you need to deflect. Basically, the point is, you can say bishop a3 would have been a checkmate if it wasn't for the pawn on d7, which would just block over here. Now, knowing that, now you know that if this pawn was not there, if the d7 pawn was not existing over there, then that would have been a checkmate, and that's exactly what we are looking for. We go and play queen to e6. Obviously, this move is not firing in the air. Basically, there is a point to it. The threat is checkmate on e8, and that's the reason he either has to capture, after which, of course, we get the chance to play beautiful bishop a3, followed by a Boden's mate. Amazing checkmate by the two bishops. Again, it's all about the activity of the pieces. The more number of attacking pieces is what matters. So going back, of course, he can't really capture the queen, and because in that case the pawn on d7 is deflected, so he has to play something else. Another move, I think only good looking move, is g6, but in that case, of course, now we win the game using check over here. If this, you take the bishop, and basically after a few moves, you can see there is a checkmate on this square. One of the only ways to defend it is to play knight c6, and now something like this, you get the rook in. It's a beautiful king hunt, after which the game ends, of course, in a checkmate. You can see we never give any chance to any of black pieces to really try to defend the king. It's all about white. White is having all the fun in the position. He's the one making all the choices, whereas black is just running around with his king. So here comes the beautiful move, queen e6 again. The idea was to deflect the d pawn away so he cannot play d6, and if this was captured, then bishop a3 would be checkmate. So this was one example of deflection. Again, the idea was to deflect the pawn. So remember, two questions you need to ask: which is the piece you need to deflect, and the second question, how do you deflect it? Now, having said that, let's go directly to our last example now. So dear chess friends, here comes the last example. It's last but not the least, and everyone loves the attacking games of the fourth world champion Alexander Eliakin. So what better way than to end this video with one of his games? This was Alexander Eliakin playing against Kohli in the Paris 1925. It's white to play, and Alexander finished the game in style again. It's very beautiful move. Which is the piece you need to deflect, and how do you deflect it is a simple question you're gonna ask. So in this position, if you want, you can always pause the video, but this is a really beautiful tactic. In this position, Alexander captured the rook on d7, a beautiful move. Basically, the piece you need to deflect is the rook on the 8th rank. The simple point is, now of course the threat is to play rook e8 over here, so he has to capture, and once he does, the entire back rank is weak. You still have to be very precise. You can't really play something like rook over here. I think in that case rook d8 is the defense, and that's the reason first you need to play rook to e8, which was played by Alexander. King h7 happens, and now Eliakin played rook c to c8. Basically, the threat of checkmate on h8 is unstoppable. You can just throw in some pieces, you can sacrifice pieces. In fact, when I turn on the engine is suggesting moves like queen c1, and that is exactly how bad the position is for black. He just wants to give up the queen and try to prolong the game. But of course, it basically means that black's position is a total mess and he's lost over here. So what a beautiful way to end the game. Queen takes d7, deflecting the back rank rook, taking it away, moving it forward. The entire idea was to get access to the last rank, 8th rank. So hope you enjoyed this beautiful chess game and examples of our world champions and great players from the past. So this is all for this is all about deflection. Basically, it's a tactic that forces an opponent's king to move away from a particular square, file, or rank, and then you penetrate the position and end the game. So until next time, see you guys. Bye.